Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Priya. I love to knit, and this is where I talk all things fiber arts. In today's video, I'm going to talk about all the things that I've been inspired by lately and how I'm going to incorporate those pieces of inspiration into my 2025 knitting plans. I wanted to start off by saying that this video is not meant to be any kind of trend forecasting video. I wouldn't consider myself to be a particularly trendy person. I like to watch fashion-related videos on YouTube, but I try to form my own opinions about what I like and what I find inspiring. So that all being said, this video might not be for everyone, and what I talk about might not be appealing to you personally. You might even find that you might really disagree with everything I say in this video, and that's completely fine because I think fashion is really subjective, and I think that what I like might not look good on another person and vice versa. I think I really appreciate that about fashion, and I really like seeing when someone is really true to themselves in terms of what they wear. So yeah, that was a little bit of a tangent, but just want to put it out there that I'm not an expert. I'm just talking about things that I really like. It is totally possible that I also might just like this stuff because it is trendy, so take that with a grain of salt as well. In fact, have the whole entire salt shaker with you as you're watching this video. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, I've written down as traditional patterns in fun or unexpected colors. By traditional patterns, I mean things like plaid or tartan. I'm not really sure what the difference is, to be honest. I should look that up. Or argyle or fair isle color work or gingham or anything like that. Things that you just typically associate with a specific color palette, whether that be like navy blues, dark greens, a little bit of red here and there. Brings up a lot of ideas of fall and winter and coziness and maybe like a dark academia kind of vibe there. By fun or unexpected colors, I feel that that's pretty self-explanatory in that I mean colors that you wouldn't typically associate with those kinds of patterns. I've been particularly inspired by a few commercially made garments with using argyle in different colors. The brands Gani and Lisa Says Ga both have really colorful argyle cardigans, I believe they are. Maybe one might be a sweater. But I just find them really interesting in that they're not using the typical argyle, like just one stripe of argyle on the front of the garment. It's kind of like an all-over pattern and in really fun colors. I really like the Lisa Says Ga cardigan. I believe it is light blue and yellow and red, and it's just a fun and unexpected pop of color using a pattern that I would tend to associate with more of like a grandpa-y style when I'm thinking about how it's typically worn. Once I saw that cardigan, I was curious to see what I could find online, perhaps secondhand, because I buy the majority of my clothes secondhand, and just to see if I could find anything similar, anything also colorful, well, having that argyle print. And I found that there wasn't a lot online that had these fun or unexpected colors. A lot of things tended to veer toward gray or navy blue, which is also a great color palette, but just not necessarily where I'm finding inspiration from right now. But yeah, I found that particularly interesting, and I found that these kinds of colorful cardigans and sweaters might be something that I'd like to draw inspiration from as I'm thinking about what I want to make in 2025. I really do love the argyle pattern, but I've never knit intarsia before, and I'm just getting into stranded color work, so I'm not sure if I want to veer into intarsia anytime soon. So I'm not sure if I'll necessarily do anything argyle related. I do know that there is one creator online called Nadia Makes who has maybe a tutorial. I think she might have a free pattern for an argyle hot water bottle cover, which would be really cool to try out in like a small scale form. I just don't use a hot water bottle, so maybe I'd still take a look at it and see if there's something else I could make with that kind of pattern, or even just a swatch might be interesting to try out. So I have a few knitting patterns I'd like to talk about that I'm planning to do sometime in the future that have to do with this category. The first one is the Kaleido cardigan by Rose Knitwear, which is a very stripy, colorful cardigan. I'm not sure if everyone would consider this to be a traditional pattern, but when I take a look at it and not considering all the different colors that are used in it, it kind of gives a plaid or somewhat of a uneven checkerboard kind of look to it. And I think having fun with the colors just brings a sort of unexpectedness to it compared to doing it all in black and white or gray or anything like that. I think it's a really fun way to use up scrap yarns. So once I accumulate enough worsted, aran weight scraps, I'd really like to do this in a lot of fun different colors. So the next sweater I'd like to talk about, in which I plan to draw this kind of fun or unexpected colors inspiration, is the Celeste sweater by petiteknit. The Celeste sweater is a really beautiful pattern that uses stranded color work to create a Fair Isle type pattern at the top of the sweater. petiteknit actually has 2 samples of this sweater, and I'd consider the creamier beigeier one to be more of a traditional color story for a sweater like that, whereas the dark brown one is veering more toward what I'm talking about in terms of a fun or unexpected color palette. Mostly because that purple is not typically what you would expect with a bunch of other neutrals, which I really enjoy. I think that I'm going to knit this sweater based off of this color palette that I found on Pinterest that I will put right here. I thought this color palette was just really interesting in its mix of having, you know, a dark brown alongside a bright green and a bright red. And I think all the colors look really beautiful together, and I have plans to knit the Celeste sweater using this exact color palette, with the brown being the main color and all the other non-neutral colors being part of the stranded color work on the yoke. The next thing I want to talk about might not come off as a surprise. I think that it's been really popular in both the commercial knitwear and the crafting space, and it is fully zipped up tops or cardigans. A little bit of a tough one for me because I have a really short torso and my hips start up really high up on my body. So sometimes I feel like with zipped up cardigans or sweaters that are supposed to be a bit more form fitted onto the body look a little strange on me because they bunch up a bit in the front. But I'm interested in knitting one myself that perhaps uses those double zips where you can unzip the bottom as well as the top. In terms of patterns I've been particularly inspired by, one of them is the Vivian cardigan by Kiss Kiss Rhinestones, which is, I believe, a 2x2 ribbed zip up cardigan that has a really beautiful detailing around the shoulders and underarms. I'm not sure if I'm going to knit this particular pattern just because I don't think I have many yarns in my stash that are the same weight as this pattern. I think it uses about a worsted weight gauge, and I'm thinking of doing something a bit lighter with the zip up cardigan, but I do really enjoy the look of it. It also doesn't come in many sizes, and I haven't looked into it a ton in terms of whether the designer plans to expand the size range or what the deal with that is, but I did want to note that. Another thing I said in the beginning that I was inspired by tops and cardigans. One top that I really love by a creator the creator is Studio Annalise, and I was watching her What I Made in 2024 video, and she had made this zip up top created entirely with crochet granny squares, and it's just so cool. And she was talking herself about how it gives kind of a sporty vibe, and I totally agree with it. I thought it was really cool taking something so what comes off as so dainty and feminine as crochet and creating such a cool and edgy top out of it. It's just very different than, you know, like having just like a crochet granny square regular crochet granny square cardigan, and that's very form fitted. It's, I believe, probably, it seems to be made out of more of like a cottony kind of yarn, so it's more suited for the spring and the summer. And I just found it to be a really inspiring piece. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make something like that myself. Maybe in the future. I don't know how comfortable I am with drafting anything, much less things that are going to be so form fitted. I also want to say, even though I find this really really inspiring right now, I have not put a zipper in anything, not even a quarter zip in anything. So if I want to do this, I'm going to have to learn a lot. And that being said, like, I think the particular cardigan that I'm looking for right now doesn't exist, or maybe if it does, I'm just not aware of the pattern, so let me know if something like this exists. There's a bit of a backstory to it. So I have this yarn from Knitting for Olive, which is the merino and the mohair in the color lavender blue. Very, very beautiful. This is probably like my favorite color, actually. And I had plans to knit the agnete cardigan by petiteknit. I think that's how you pronounce it, but I might be completely wrong. So if you have any idea, please let me know. For those of you who might know this cardigan, this is not a zip-up cardigan. This is a regular button brioche cardigan. I've also never knit brioche before, so that'd be something new to me. I bought this yarn for that use, and after having it for a while, I just realized that I don't really like V-neck cardigans. I prefer crew neck cardigans a lot more. So I was on the hunt for a DK weight in which I could still use this yarn. Brioche cardigan. And as I was thinking about how I'm inspired by these fully zipped up cardigans and tops, I thought it might be really cool to do a zip up brioche cardigan using that yarn. Not sure if a pattern like that exists. I'm not sure if I'm willing to try out both brioche and sewing in a zip in one garment. I'm considering perhaps trying to freehand it and do a half fisherman's cardigan instead, because I've done a half fisherman's rib before, and I'm a bit more familiar about how to structure that and how to do increases and decreases in that instead, and just trying to learn how to sew in a zip with that cardigan. So we'll see if that happens, but I'd really love to do that in this particular color, and I think it'd be really beautiful. My third and fourth sources of inspiration are somewhat related together, and those are matching sets and loungewear. If you know me, you know I love a good top and bottom matching set. And one that I am definitely going to make this year is the Wool & Beyond Thin set. The Thin set by Wool & Beyond is a matching long sleeve top and mini skirt set, which gives off a very casual and comfortable look. I actually tried knitting this top already myself and then made a mistake and just put it away and never picked it up again. But I have plans to knit it this year using this yarn, which again is Knitting for Olive. But this is the cotton merino in the colorway Koala. And I would really like to knit both the top and the bottom using this color. I also have plans or perhaps aspirations to freehand matching sets using yarns from my stash. The first yarn with which I'd like to knit a matching set is this one, which is Noro Kakigori in the colorway Naha, which you can see is a very, very beautiful, very colorful yarn. I believe that this is a summer yarn. It is made up of cotton, silk, viscose, and polyamide. And I had actually knit the petiteknit June top out of this because I've seen a few creators knit that top using the same yarn, and it just didn't fit me correctly at all. So I think I'm going to frog that, and I have a few more skeins of this yarn. I think I'm going to frog that one, freehand my own tank top, and perhaps knit a matching skirt with it to create a matching set, which I think would be really cute. And that'll probably be a summer plan for me. The next yarn with which I'd like to try knitting a matching set is another Noro yarn. This is Noro Ito. Again, a very, very colorful yarn, but this one is 100% wool. So it is a nice worsted weight, colorful wool. And with this one, I have 2 skeins of this. This is 200 grams in 400 meters. I was thinking of maybe making a vest in a matching pair of shorts. I've never knit shorts before, so I'm a little bit nervous about that. And I'm also not sure how wearable wool shorts will be. Going into my fourth one, I think my fourth source of inspiration is loungewear. I would consider wool shorts to be more of a loungewear piece, and my matching set made out of this to be more of a loungewear piece. For loungewear, I want to talk more about Wool & Beyond because I think that she's the queen of making loungewear type knitwear. She actually has a summer shorts pattern, which I might use to base the wool shorts off of, but still kind of unsure about my plans for that. She also just came out with a pattern that's also a matching set. So again, these relate very well to one another, but she just came out with another pattern that was kind of like a boucle top in maxi skirt or mini skirt set. I think there was a way that you could make either one. And the pattern that just looks so cozy and so soft and like just glorious loungewear, and I would really love to have that in my wardrobe. I'm not sure if I'm gonna knit it anytime soon because I don't have that kind of yarn in my stash, but it's just so cozy and so nice and right up my alley in terms of what I'm looking for this year. The last thing I want to talk about having to do with loungewear I talked about in my first podcast episode, and that's the Solene cardigan by moreca. I wouldn't necessarily consider the Solene cardigan the way that moreca knit her sample to align quite with loungewear, but I am modifying the pattern to be a bit baggier and fit a bit more robe-like. I referenced Daisy Studios tie front cardigan, and that's the kind of style that I'm trying to emulate with my modifications to the Solene cardigan. So I would consider that to be more of a loungewear type piece. I am obviously going to wear it out and about, but I think it's going to be a bit more casual than a nice, more form-fitting tie front cardigan would be. So going into my last sources of inspiration, I just wanted to talk about general colors that I've been really inspired by. A few of the yarns I've talked about before will make more appearances in this section. But the first color that I wanted to talk about is actually a color combination, and it is brown, like a dark chocolate brown, and a very, very light ice blue together. I have this dark chocolate brown wool yarn. This is Blue Sky Fibers woolstok worsted, and I think the color is chocolate or dark chocolate or something like that, but I will definitely make sure to put all information on the screen or in the description box below. I am actually already knitting a garment in this color. which I'll be talking about in my next podcast episode. I just have really liked the colors blue and brown together, and there's this beanie that Rose Knitwear made called the Escher beanie, and the sample that Rose Knitwear had made was out of a dark brown and a light blue, and I just think they look so beautiful together. I actually have some leftover yarn that I cannot find for the life of me. I really would have liked to have it for this video so you can see the colors side by side, but the yarn that I have left over is Quince & Co.'s Crane, and it's in a very, very beautiful light blue. I'll put a picture on the screen next to this so you can see the colors together, but I'd really like to make that hat with this yarn and that yarn once I can find it. The next color I'd like to talk about is Canary Yellow, which is a very, very bright yellow that leans more orangey. I know that butter yellow, like the sweater I'm wearing right now, has been really popular over the past year, but I'm interested in perhaps doing some kind of garment with a really bright pop of just like a very happy sunshiny yellow. I think it would look really good on my skin tone, and I'm just really drawn to it. I think it'll look really beautiful. I don't have a yarn in that color right now, and as I mentioned before, I'm not really interested in buying yarn right now. This might be something that I'll do later in the summer. I also haven't found a yarn that's this exact color out there yet. I think that Knit Picks has a color called Canary Yellow in their palette yarn that I've never used before. So I'm not entirely sure if I want to get that yarn. I've heard nice things about it, so maybe I will once I'm ready to purchase more yarn, but I'm thinking that a color like that, instead of doing like a solid garment using it, I think it'd be really beautiful in some kind of lace sweater, like the Madeleine sweater from Knitting for Olive. And so yeah, that might be a future plan of mine once I'm ready to buy more yarn. The next color that I want to talk about might come as no surprise, since I talked so much in my first podcast episode about how much I've been liking bright greens, but it is matcha green. This particular color is from Sandnes Garn and petiteknit's collaboration, and it is matcha green. This is in Sunday, which is a fingering weight wool yarn, merino wool yarn, and I have plans to knit a very nice summer garment using this. I'm thinking it'll likely be the mixed rib cami by Florence Miller, but I also, if Typical Bliss Tiffany Lou comes out with her croissant top pattern at some point, I might consider making that in this color. The next color I'd like to talk about is just this color again, which I've talked about before. This is always going to be an inspirational color for me. This is my favorite color. This periwinkle lavender blue color is just so gorgeous. And I've already talked about how I'd like to knit a cardigan using this. And the last color I'd like to talk about is purple. And I know this is pretty much a purple, but I'm talking like a violet purple. This is from my stash. I knit my niece a hat using this yarn, which is Double Sunday by Sandnes Garn. I'm not sure if the color name off the top of my head, but I will be sure to put it somewhere. I'm not sure how much of this I have in my stash. I can only find this, but if I can make a nice top out of it, I might do that. I think that it's a really beautiful color, and it's not even just this purple, it's just any dark, rich purple I've been really inspired by lately. And this is what I have in my stash, so not sure what I'm gonna do with it. We'll have to see how much of it I have. All right, and that's all I'd like to talk about today. I am so sorry if this was a little bit disorganized or chaotic. I am trying my best to take notes and just be a little bit more organized about what I want to say, but it's a little bit I'm trying to get used to talking on camera and being a bit more articulate with my thoughts. So I really appreciate it if you made it this far. I really appreciate it if you like have subscribed to me or commented or liked my videos since I've made the first one. It's been so nice to see people's comments and just like I don't even have the words for it. It's so hard to put yourself out there on the internet, and I was always so scared to do it because I was so scared of how I'd be received and what other people would say. But people have been so kind and so friendly online, and I just really appreciate everything. So thank you so much. Please let me know what you've been inspired by lately, and I'll see you in the next episode.